Call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock if Kerry's ready. And now we'll go back to the May 1st. Not May 1st, the June. Which one? Which minutes were those?
May 1st.
May 1st. We also have the one from April 3rd still.
Okay.
Has to be done. That's the one that John was not here for, Dylan was here for. So did you get a chance to look at those?
I did.
And
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 3rd.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I wasn't here.
You're not
so-
here, so.
Yeah, I'm staying.
All right, that one's passed. Now, minutes of May 1st. Which Dylan was not here, so John, did you get a chance to look?
I did. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of May.
May 1st.
Thank you.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm staying.
I don't think you have to abstain, just don't propose. Because we don't need to give extra stuff. Kerry, did you give me another copy of that one to sign?
Yes, didn't I?
Um,
Wait, what do you mean, April 3rd?
well, actually, one of each, right, so I
I
have to
did
sign.
give you May 1st.
All right, that's the one with, nope, that doesn't have that. Yep.
Yeah.
This one. Then I just need one for April. All right, warrants, abatements and such are being signed as we speak. So Wayne, would you like to go on to rules and regulations while we're,
Oh, she put that up and I didn't even get to that.
well, did you make the changes on that, the one you handed out the last time?
So we changed the $750, the cost of the meter.
Yeah, you also had the rules and regulations you emailed out, asking for comments on.
Yeah,
Did you
I
get a
changed the
chance?
top of it so it doesn't say curb box too.
Right, you wanna go over that tonight with?
Yeah, let me-
Because Dylan wasn't here when we discussed that, I don't think. Well, there's a lot tonight. Just try not to get in trouble with the paperwork the first month. Yeah, if you had any questions, Dylan, on the stuff from the minutes of those last two, you weren't here.
No, I
Don't-
watched all the meetings.
Thanks, Wayne.
Good enough.
Yeah, I was glad we went up on the meter rates, install rates. I think it was a good amount.
Well, kinda have to, I mean.
Yeah. But I was glad that we went a little bit over what we're paying now, that we're not chasing.
Until the next time we have to buy a meter, the prices go up again.
Energy inflation surcharge.
No, they all tag that as a delivery.
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, like Alpha Labs, I know they charge us something.
They basically came up with an excuse,
Yeah,
and once you do, they all are gonna,
Yeah.
Well, the price of fuel was going down, and OPEC decided to vote and decrease the amount of oil.
Only on 200,000 barrels.
Yeah. Price of gas went back up.
All right, so you wanna go,
James was supposed to be here, but
go over the water service one then.
All right.
We can get that stuff out when he gets here, because we've got this and West Center Street on the agenda for tonight.
What's,
477, that's what we were talking about, the meter service size. Look at the
oh,
last
yeah. He still wants to do a fire flow test. I asked him where he's flowing at, because basically he has a hydrant now. That's where you should be testing from.
one. Yeah, they
So
they had done a test before they,
Yeah, that's why it was weird that he was asking for another one. So I haven't heard back from him. I've gotten another email today saying he'd let his fire protection person know. Like, all right.
oh, okay, I know what this one was.
Save my work. Here. Speaking of,
Nope, speaking of James.
Hello.
Hello, James.
How are you guys today?
Good.
Yeah, well, since he is here, anybody have an issue with skipping over the
No.
rules in the 477, so we can go right into the stuff that he's doing with?
do we have to take a vote? And, you know,
It's
during the audience and
on the agenda.
to up on the agenda?
I don't think you have to
No.
vote to do that, actually. I think I can actually just say we're going to do it. But I like to ask. Be nice. So,
Good evening.
good evening. You have the floor.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, we still have a lot going on. So I guess I think the oldest thing out there is the tank age evaluation we did about the Walnut Street tank.
Yeah.
So we did issue a draft report to Wayne, which I think he may have shared with you.
Yep.
And essentially, we still are thinking long-term altitude valve, right, is the way to go. We did recommend some, I guess, short-term things we could try in the meantime. I do know, talking to Wayne that, you're expecting, summer demands to start, ramping up. So it might not be, super feasible to drop the tank levels too much at this time. But long story short with that report, we did set up an extended period simulation with what we call typical diurnal curves. So we didn't go through West Bridgewater's demands for this, but it still does a good job of letting you see the tank, how the tank reacts over time to these adjustments. And the one thing we did note, and I don't think it was particularly surprising, but the model shows that the Walnut Street tank should be should be doing better than it is. I think we all kind of know that, but one of our recommendations is that when we go into design, there may be just a little bit of field work we would do at that time. We could work with you to maybe put some data loggers out and just see if there's anything going on in the system that could be creating unexpected head loss, or anything that might be indicating that our model is inaccurate in a certain location. And then the report, I think mentioned, gave some costs for what it might look like to do the altitude valve.
Yeah, I noticed when you were doing that, you were setting that up as a separate full-size 12-inch valve with vault for single for each tank.
Yeah, so we wanted to give you a conservative price.
All right, I was gonna say, because
Yeah.
there's really no reason for more than one on the ingoing line. running, even if we have to cross pipe something to get a separate fill line in for one of the other tanks.
Yeah.
And possibly even that's a large altitude valve, and you didn't seem like the rates going in and out of the tank, particularly filling the tank, were all that high.
I would agree with everything.
So
you
I
said.
would think
Yeah.
smaller altitude valve with a bypass for fire flow. And the thing is, to make Walnut do better and move, we still need to do something with that, with those tanks, because we will fill those tanks and overflow those tanks
Yeah.
if we try to push any more water into Walnut Street.
Mhm.
You know, where we don't control off Walnut, we have to control off those tanks. So we do need to look forward, you know, pushing that into a solution in terms of design.
Sure. Yeah, so, I mean, we didn't have, scope in there to do a preliminary design of the altitude valve, which is why we'll always kind of err on the side of being conservative, because, once you put a number out there, it's challenging to come back and say that wasn't enough. So when we're trying to help forecast out costs, we do typically say, we don't just throw a huge number that, out of nowhere, because that's not helpful either.
No,
But when we look
I
at the
understand.
range of solutions, we do tend to try to look at, this is, the upper end of possible solutions.
Right.
And then it gives us flexibility, like we said, to do some, testing in the field, really narrow down our set points, and then, appropriately size. We don't typically put 2 altitude valves in when you have 2 tanks, but we weren't prepared to rule it out at this stage either.
okay. I'm prepared to rule it out.
Okay. Fair enough.
But that's where those are that close. And if anything, with what you're coming up with for costs for that, to put that kind of money in on the tank, that we might, depending on what happens the next time we go to do those tanks, we might eliminate that small tank.
Right.
Especially if water age is a problem, we don't need to be sitting there with 500,000 gallons of storage.
Exactly. You guys are running a storage surplus.
All right. I didn't get around to getting them written down, but I did have some comments, so we'll get
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's submitted draft for exactly that reason. We haven't built it to 100% because we know that there's going to be some, feedback loop to make sure that the, final product includes your feedback. So, yeah, we're happy to receive those comments and then issue the report final, once we've addressed your comments and go from there.
Okay. Anybody else?
I guess iron and manganese, the update there is that we're getting closer to that June date when the next pilot unit's available. As you'll recall, we started off with biological. We got enough data from that to stop. We terminated that early to kind of recover some of the budget to go after the TOC issue that came up during our initial sampling. So we added some jar testing to see, if coagulation is going to be an effective treatment measure for the TOC. So we're going to do that kind of in concert when they come out with the Green Sand Plus trailer. So that's all kind of on the same track it was last time.
Did you have a date or just mid-June, rough?
Yeah, good question. In my mind, it's June. I don't remember if he gave us a firm date, but yeah, I can follow up on that.
Well, just if the demands do start picking up and everything, just want we to have as much heads up as possible.
Okay,
when
yeah.
Stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so I mean, we're in pretty constant contact with Eric Broughton, who's the sub-consultant who does that pilot testing. We're working with him in a couple different places, so we can certainly, we would expect good communication from him and a heads up.
Okay.
So we'd be able to forward that along. So PFAS is going kind of like 2 parallel tracks at the moment. So the first one is the short-term solution. So Chris has signed up in working towards that short-term solution, which is transferring the existing vessel into PFAS treatment. So they got shop drawings in for the lead time being like the flanged pipe. And we turned our approval around in 48 hours, just kind of keep the ball rolling. So far, their shop drawings, they are giving us exactly what we specified. There's no substitutions or anything tricky to navigate. So it's been a good start. But I think the flange pipe was at 8 to 12 weeks lead time at the time we got the shop drawing.
Yeah,
That was-
they mentioned that at pre-construction.
Exactly. Yeah.
When we started out. You said they got right out there and did.
Yeah, they were there that Friday and they were there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I think we were there on a Wednesday, they were back on Friday taking measurements. They had a shop drawing in, I think, the following Tuesday, and they had approval Thursday. So, within a week of the kickoff meeting, we had the lead item approved, so that
And that
really
was the
start.
long lead time item.
That was
So
the
that's-
one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, we have been in contact a bit with Wayne Gendron, who is a local rep who works with Advantage, who's the supplier of the media. This kind of will segue into the next thing, but we, in anticipation of starting the long term, have already kind of gotten him going on some things. So, we did talk to him about, and he acknowledged that they're signed up. He did ask us why the contractor won't pay them up front. This was something that came up at the kickoff meeting, and just them not understanding how publicly bid projects work. That we would not recommend, the water department pay for materials that haven't been on site. And so this was between the supplier and the contractor to figure out any deposit that's required. So, but yeah, so in other words, they are communicating, they are, under contract, and we would expect the meter to be available by the time the vessel is. One thing that I think did catch everyone by surprise is that there is some gravel material in the bottom. I think when we were up there during design, kind of poking around, we couldn't see clearly at the bottom that there was some gravel. So one of the things they asked was if the water department was prepared to remove it, or if that was something that they need to do. And they indicated that would be an additional cost. So at this point, we asked them to price it out, and then we'll come back to you, and if we think the price is reasonable, we would suspect it's within the contingency amount, but we'll let you know when they come back, and ultimately it'll be your decision whether you think. I don't think it would be an easy task for you guys to get in there and get all the gravel out. So
Yeah, I don't think, I guess I could fit through the hatch, but.
yeah, I don't know if you want to be filling buckets.
Well, when
and bringing it out.
they're doing the stuff down the bottom, when they're doing the repiping, would there be a way to get it out the bottom of the tank?
No, because you can't, like, when you look in the pipe, you don't see it.
Yeah, it's suspended above.
Yeah, it's on a grate, so it's above.
And then when that comes out, they're
I'd have
they're
to
gonna
look
use the grate that's in there to support the Advantage media.
I'll look in to see how big the stone is, to see if we can, the only way I think you'd get it out is Vector.
That's the solution that popped into my mind, is it seemed like an application for that.
And I don't know if our vac will pull it. If it's not big stone, our vac might pull it.
Yeah.
Is there a garage door on that back side of the building?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the access, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the price is, and then we can, you'll be a part of that decision-making process. Anything cost-related, you guys approve before we give direction.
And so that's gravel's been sitting on top of that screen, so basically since the thing went in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, number one, will the vac do it? Number two, do we want to be responsible for damaging the screen if something happens?
Right.
So, because that could be another possible issue. If that screen had to be replaced afterwards, we'd own it if we're the ones that took the gravel out.
Understood. So we'll find out. Thank Chris, we have experience working with them. I think Paul will come to us with a good faith number. We don't necessarily have concerns there, but we'll advise accordingly when we have all the information. But I think that's kind of the only thing that's really come up so far. Everything else has been, progressing as expected. So then long-term wise, I believe Wayne indicated that the design and construction was approved at town meeting. So we submitted a proposal to do the design. So we're hoping that, we can get the proposal, if you guys have any comments or changes, we're happy to go over those.
We have that way?
We make copies. We do.
I mean, we won't get approval tonight, but
So we would just ask that, you know, as you can, because we still have to then follow up with a contract. So I'm happy to come back in 2 weeks if that helps.
this is the stuff we have to be basically done with the design October 15th, so I'm not gonna ask to put it out, but to try to approve it tonight without having a chance to really
Completely
let people
understand,
go
yeah.
through it.
Right, it's not a contract, so it's not, it wouldn't authorize us to go anyway. It's more just to make sure we're on the same page scope-wise. You know, and fee, obviously, is important too. One thing, you know, we noted is that, you know, our design fee as proposed here is, you know, significantly lower than what we put in for SRF. But we are expecting, you know, ultimately, if you have us do the CA and our RPR services for it, that's gonna come in higher because SRF recently has started requiring full-time RPR, even if they're not funding construction. Funding the engineering.
Yeah,
So that wasn't budgeted a year and a half ago when we did all of this. That being said, we did provide Wayne a breakdown prior to town meeting just to show that the amounts you were going for should still cover the full design, construction engineering, and construction contingency. Just some of the costs are in different buckets now. So essentially, since we are now sharpening our pencils on design to an actual scope, you know, our design fee is, I think originally was, you know, $450,000 for design. I can't remember the exact number.
yeah, you were at 450, you brought that down to 266.
Right, yeah. And that's, you know, because we have a more defined scope, right? You know, when we put that together 18 months ago, we thought there was a possibility that we'd have to cover, you know, several different media types, but we now know that we've already narrowed the process down to eliminate carbon, right? So, you know, that's partially why the cost came down. Another reason the cost came down is the piloting piece is more streamlined. So as you recall, you know, this time last year, we were doing a full pilot of Green Sand Plus, MyOx conversion to hypo, and pilot testing the granular activated carbon to see if its lifetime efficiency would, you know, be an improvement. We've since taken a more streamlined approach to eliminate the carbon piece, so that also eliminated some of the piloting costs. So, you know, those two things combined is, you know, why we were able to, you know, significantly reduce the, you know, the design cost, which comes in handy because, as I described, you know, we're going to work with DEP and try to propose a reasonable balanced engineering, but we wanted you to be prepared that they may require full-time RPR.
Yeah, so basically there's the increase in construction services plus the RPR coming out, which wasn't included, so it's gonna cost about 350 grand because of going through the SRF in engineering fees. Is that roughly?
I wouldn't say all of that, because we would have still done probably a part-time, full-time split, where during, you know, the major building component, we'd probably recommend having somebody on site pretty close to full-time. And it's more the interior processes that we don't feel always provides full value to have somebody on site every day. So as you saw with the well, we picked our places that we had to be there watching, right? When they were doing anything buried, we were on site to make sure we had ties to give you accurate record drawings, but we didn't, you know, show up here on site on days we didn't need to be here, you know, for cost-effective reasons. So we're a little bit limited in being able to do that when SRF is involved. So it's not like we're going from 0 to 100, but we're probably going from 50 to 100. So.
And does the SRF, since they're not paying for those fees?
They are not paying for the construction and RPR fees, correct?
Okay, so
Or the design for that matter, right? So they're paying for the construction
only.
Yep. And the contingency is part of that funding. So
doing that doesn't affect, we're not gonna get less out of SRF?
correct. unless we come in under budget.
Can you explain to me more what a RPR is?
Yeah, so that's our term for what we typically would call like a resident engineer. It's a resident project representative is what it stands for.
Yeah.
But it's essentially having a resident observer on site. They serve as an owner's representative to make sure that the construction is in accordance with the plans and specs. They're also in charge of monitoring the progress of work and related to pay applications. So they make sure that you're tracking the actual quantities, labor. Then if anything out of scope happens, they're there to see that out of scope work so they can accurately price out any change orders. Depending on their involvement, they oftentimes can answer a lot of field questions that come up with the contractor in real time in the field, which can sometimes cut down on paperwork flying back and forth to answer certain questions.
Is it like a project manager?
No, because they're strictly on site. So during construction, I would anticipate that I'd be the project manager. So I'd be the one who, from our side, would have the final approval, issue any work directives, approve any cost overruns. Obviously with water department approval first, but they're strictly eyes on the ground. Whereas I will be out periodically, but I'm not on site every day to monitor.
Well, that's what a
projects.
clerk of the work.
Yeah, okay.
And those aren't people you subcontract, those are Tater and Howard.
Typically, yeah. So we have full-time Tate Howard employees who provide those services. Sometimes we will contract out the work depending on if we have more projects that need them than we have people hired for. That has happened, but they're typically our employees. And in a specialized project like water treatment, we typically are doing that in-house because we want not only building experience, we want someone who understands the process.
It's just a huge amount of money. So it's $345,000 for someone to be on site for 15 months.
Yeah. And so I think like we put in our letter, our plan is to work with DEP. Right now, we would only be under contract for the design. We're not asking to be under contract for the construction services or the RPR at this time, understanding that we're likely a year away, or maybe not quite a year, maybe
Well, you're talking probably
11 months.
December, maybe beginning by the time, if they even approve
Yeah, so
the
I
design
think,
right away.
yeah, exactly. So I think we would have the package in for approval mid-October to meet those requirements. That's a hard deadline that we have to meet, or we would be at risk of losing the principal forgiveness component, which is obviously not an option for us. So, that's a hard deadline no matter what kind of a thing. So we would anticipate going through the permitting process then that we would be going out to bid over the winter and hopefully starting construction, for next construction season, April, maybe even March if it's a mild winter.
And we still don't know what the forgiveness through the SRF will be, because we don't find that out until later.
Yeah, so I think the minimum was 6.6%.
6%.
Which, I know is, I think, a little bit lower than we thought, but, 6% of $3.8 million is something, right? It's,
Quarter
Yeah,
million
something.
bucks.
But
But when they
6%
stand there at
go
town
to
meeting,
the-
they make it sound like, oh, we're giving you this billions of
But
dollars.
does that go to the 3.85? Because the 3.85 includes the engineer.
so, so you have to go back to what they approved, right? So in their approval, it included the construction, the contingency, and the piloting piece. So,
So it'd be,
$3,165,000.
yes, I think that's the number, the 3.1. And then there's the additional, I think, 1 million of ARPA funds. Right,
Yeah.
to cover the,
1.37 something.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
so that's essentially what, where the $4 million all in.
But the minimum principal forgiveness would be 6% of the 3.1 million, which I should have been able to do in my head years ago, but I don't.
240 maybe, roughly?
186.
Worse.
So little less than half of the extra engineering cost would come out of the principal fee.
But it's also 0% interest, which they haven't done in 20 years.
And it could be higher than 6%.
And it could be higher.
If you guys write a really good application, hint, hint.
We already did. It got approved. It scored well.
I haven't.
So now it's and it's bizarre because they keep leaning on us to commit and give them answers, but then they don't have any of this data for us. And it's like, you have to understand these are factors in these decisions being made. So it's been a little frustrating.
So right now, you're not necessarily looking for approval all the way through construction services. You need approval for design, so you can get the contract to us, so we can get that going.
Exactly. Yeah.
And your design cost has actually gone down
Yeah.
Correct.
significantly from what we were doing in the original estimate.
Correct.
Okay, what I said before about us not being able to do it tonight, I'm reconsidering. I don't know about the other guys here. If they'd be comfortable telling you to go ahead and put the contracts together. My inclination would be put the contracts together for the design of the pilot.
Okay.
Which is what we have to do to meet the October 15th.
Correct.
And then we'd have to, if we have them at the next meeting, we could go through
Sure.
them so that we can get you going. I don't know, and I'm asking John and Dylan what their opinion is of that, or if they would like to think longer on it.
I
With
think,
the rest of what's going on.
You've got a longer record with these guys. How do you, I mean, what would we be waiting for? I mean, we're looking at 266,000 now.
I mean, basically, the part that's concerning is the construction services, and we're not gonna know that until later anyway.
Right.
And if I don't wanna hold up getting the design stuff started.
I don't want to hold it up either.
Because we have that October 15th deadline.
Right.
If you had told me you went from 450 for the design to 550,
Right.
it'd be, but where the 450's going down to 266, the pilot's gone down by $140,000. Because, again, there's reasons for it, there's the scope change.
Yeah, these are decisions that we've made collaboratively throughout the process. Yeah.
So I actually said, I don't have a problem, but I don't, there's three of us here.
I have no issue. With the design, I'm having a tough time with this, but we can work through that.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to give Tater and Howard authorization to move forward with the design services.
Well, to prepare a contract
Prepare a contract.
Yeah.
For 266,000.
for 316,000, right, for the design and the pilot. That's gonna be in one contract.
Correct.
I'll second.
Kerry, you wanna read back what you have for the motion?
Yeah,
Just-
motion to give Tatter and Howard approval to prepare a contract for $316,000 for the design services of the what?
Design and piloting
Piloting.
services.
Yeah, for the long term, yes.
Long term?
Long-term PFAS. And that was a motion by Dylan and
Yep.
second by John.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So we will get you a contract by the end of this week, so you have time to review it prior to your next meeting. And then I'm happy to be here for that meeting if you have questions on it. Just let me know.
Okay, yeah, of course, if you get it to, as soon as Wayne gets it, he can email it out to us, so we don't have to sit and look at it first thing at the meeting.
Sure, understood.
I just have one more question on this. About this, it says that, the RPR services are required by the SRF program at this level. Is that true? Like, they require
So,
some level of reporting, or?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
So it says primarily due to the extensive RPR requirement of the SRF program. That's why it's increased.
So this hasn't always been the case. So in the past, there have been programs where the engineering was eligible as part of the SRF funding. And when those projects happened, we would expect them to require full-time RPR. Very recently, we had a project where they were requiring full-time RPR even though they were not the ones funding the engineering costs for construction. Which is why when Wayne asked for a budget update, we said this is what we would assume for construction. However, prior to entering a contract with you for our services, we would be engaging DEP to try to negotiate what we think is the right balance for services. So, from making sure you guys had the right number going for approval, we carried that for construction admin. We consider that to be the number if they require that. However, we would expect on your behalf to be having conversations with DEP prior to giving you a proposal for RP to make sure that we understand, what their scope
To
is.
try to bring that down.
Exactly, because we're not interested in spending more time out here than provides you value.
And you're billing about $140 an hour for a rep, based on that, roughly.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what our RPR rate is off the top of it. That seems a little high, but
15 months, it's, however many weeks they run over, just roughly, that works out to around 130 to 150.
okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense because we have some expenses built in to that as well, for mileage and, things like that. So, yeah, all in, that's probably about right. But that's why we're not asking for that
No,
now, because-
that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
we
fine.
would prefer to refine the scope, because as you see, as we refine the scope, we can sharpen our pencils. Okay, great, so we'll provide you, the contract this week, that way you have adequate time to go through it.
And you've got people ready to get started,
We do.
basically, as soon as you can turn it around so that you get done by the 15th, because that is drop dead.
Yeah, so the reason why we're pushing on the contract is because we can't have any sub-consultants under contract with us until we're under
Yeah.
contract. And we need to get a surveyor out there, we need to get borings done out there. Those are kind of the lead items. We have started some conversations internally with the vendors of various, we're doing some legwork, for our own benefit to hit the ground running, kind of in good faith knowing this
Yeah, like I
has to
said, you
happen.
can't sign contracts with anybody, and
Yeah, so we're obviously committed to this delivery date regardless, so we are doing some things now that we think we need to do to make that happen. But we are a little handcuffed in terms of we can't contract with anybody while we're not in contract with you.
Yeah.
Also, I'm still working through the ARPA thing. It seems funny that it's all ARPA money, but it's different agencies dealing. So it's on the selectmen's agenda for the sign forms that they need to sign so that I can go into the portal and reapply. So I think I don't know when they meet, but I know it got on their agenda, so they have to sign it, so does David.
yeah, because they have to authorize you to be able to, like an
Yeah.
authorized user of it or something like that.
Yeah. It's like every time I turn around, there's a new person or a new player, and I'm like, all right, good. I'm trying to keep them all straight, but it's getting harder and harder. So I don't have, we can't spend yet because I can't tell you that I have it yet.
Yeah,
No,
I understand.
but we're being assured the money is there, it's
It's,
just
yeah,
getting this.
no matter what, the amount has never changed. It's always the 1.3 something something.
Yeah, I guess all I'll say is that, we have a long-standing relationship as well, so I'm not terribly concerned on that. And if we get the go-ahead to go, and the funding is there, but we're comfortable.
I asked and everybody is jumping, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the only other item that I can, unless I'm missing something, see well, 5, 4 and 5, end
Sunday?
of May. So I'll reach out to
VFDs?
yeah, for the VFDs. I mean, I trust that Paul Dankris is doing everything he can. I do, but I think, you know, he's almost as helpless as we are in some regards to getting those VFDs on site.
I'm sure they got ordered, it's just,
Do we need VFDs over at Manley Street for any of this?
no, they exist.
Yeah, not for the short-term work.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the long-term work will include VFDs, but we'll have, you know,
Yeah, that's a ways out, but everything we need for Manley to run it is already.
Yeah, it's already running, so there's
Yeah.
nothing, there won't be anything additional. I'm upgrading the PLCs, I've already signed with, the instrument Mike
Yeah.
to do that. So I told him to order them.
did I miss anything, Wayne?
Unless you wanna talk about the lead and copper thing.
Oh, yeah, happy to talk about it.
Okay.
So I think we submitted a proposal, and at this point, as you know, it's a grant, it's no longer a loan. So I think previously we had said, you need an appropriation, then we came back and said, nope, forget about that, you don't need an appropriation. So I think where we're at is if you are comfortable with the proposal, so that's essentially what the scope of work is, you know, I guess it's to some degree the fee as well. You know, make sure that you believe that the fee and scope jive. Then we would submit that alongside with an application for that grant. And it's technically first come, first serve. So our, you know, we don't have any indication that the funds are running out anytime soon, but you know, we would just prefer to get that in and approved by them as soon as possible. So again, this isn't a contract at this point. It's essentially, you know, the contract would become after you are approved and decide to move forward with the grant.
Do we have the fee proposal?
There has been, well, we have something, let me hand it out.
Let me say, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I think Molly sent along, so Molly actually was involved in the well 4 and 5 design back before she went on maternity leave. By the time she came back, we were in the final stages. You probably haven't seen her recently, but she's running a lot of our lead service projects throughout the firm. So she'll be, you know, actively involved in this one as well. So she pulled together the proposal to make sure it covers all the items that are required for the grant program to be successful. You know, we've reached out to some sub-consultants regarding any potential partnerships we would need to meet an MBE requirement that comes with the grant. They're all overbooked at this point with lead service work, so it's, you know, we almost don't have a preference whether they agree or whether they,
If it gets to a point that there's no one available, you don't have to.
then you get the waiver.
Yeah.
So,
So either way.
so you're fine either way.
How about on the SRF, on the long term? So if you go to that one, on the SRF, one, you have to meet those goals for that as well, right?
I think the contractor would, but none of your engineering is covered by them. So there'd be no.
That's right, because they're not paying for any of the engineering.
Yeah.
Did you look through this, Dwayne? And you've got it as far as,
Yeah, I did, because in his email, I just took the wording one way, so then I began to freak out.
I mean, how much does it, because what I was thinking is how much work still would you guys have to do in the office here to provide them, or are they just gonna come in and?
Well, we have the database, and Deborah's been building the data, because we were building up to do it, but
Yeah.
then when they triggered us with that enhanced sampling for lead and copper, I'm still having issues getting through that. So, they live in a world where they can issue rules and regulations and not have to figure out how to do it. no matter what we can come up with it, like this town never did lead service lines, never. It did do lead goosenecks, but there's nothing in writing, but they did go through and replace most of them. So there are, in 18 years, I've seen 2 or 3 tops. So to say there might still be out there, yeah, there might be one here or there, but you're not gonna know where it is because there's nothing written anywhere. And I did go through the tie cards. We do have tie cards that say, in some cases, you know, it says that there's a copper water service. I went back through because every computer that we put out to pasture, I save everything out of it, so I can go back through.
So is this a requirement that we need to comply with, is that?
Yeah, it's a new lead and copper
Oh, yeah.
rule revision.
It's like October of next year.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna go to the same database that Lane's reached out to, it's checked out, so you're gonna find the same information that he has, possibly
Yes.
possibly a couple, or whatever, a limited amount of goosenecks that would connect to the galvanized.
Well, there won't be anything written anywhere. So they didn't even do galvanized, they just did steel service lines.
Not galvanized steel, steel?
Yeah,
Steel?
it's steel as far as I can tell. I mean, if there's a way to tell the difference between galvanized steel and regular black steel, all I ever seen is black iron. And
And there's nothing in the cards or anything else. to
no,
say.
it won't say, no.
But you don't know, like some of the galvanized services at the time, they could have been connected to lead, and then you change. I
Yeah,
know-
so the chances, so when they redid it, if there's a 2-inch, we have 2-inch mains in town, which I've tried to work with the town to get rid of, and they wouldn't work back with me. If we have a steel line connected to it, there's a chance that there could be a lead gooseneck there. But most of those streets where we found the steel lines, the main's already been replaced, so the goosenecks went away. Our side is copper.
I know my house on Matfield Street, we
Yeah,
changed
that
it was either, it might have been steel.
Yeah.
We changed it a couple
Yours
of
was
years ago.
actually in really good shape.
That was copper that went from the main to the galvan,
Yeah,
to the steel.
right,
whatever it was.
because they replaced that
And they
main.
changed the main.
Yeah,
So we don't know how many out there exist other than,
you basically just go
Just
back
taking
and maybe
notes on
try
it.
to go to door where the old steel main still exists.
right?
And if they're newer houses, they're not gonna be steel, they'll be,
Should be clocked.
Copper.
I know on West Street, there's like 3 of them in a row that are steel lines going in. But they're tied to a new main, so there's no gooseneck.
Yeah, I mean, there's strategies, that we've, seen and used where you can, take a look, and if an entire neighborhood was a subdivision constructed after the lead ban,
Right.
you don't have to go into those houses and look at the copper, right? So as part of the process is we identify anything that's, obviously lead first and foremost, but when in the absence of that, anything that is unknown, we have to treat as either lead or find out that it's not. And so the, DEP has, EPA and DEP both have forms. So we have developed a form that works for both, where you kind of import the data you have, and then we can kind of go in and make some of those, reasonable assumptions. And then you'll ultimately have a list of things that are still unknown. And at that point, that's when, we can do the home inspections,
She
test
had-
pits.
Right. She
Well, without
said,
digging up the front yard, how are you gonna figure it out?
So the 2 ways you can do it is a test pit at the curb, like the curb stop, to see where it is on both sides. And then the other choice is if you know on the town side that it's copper, but you don't know on the private side, then sometimes, then you're doing a program where you're going into houses and taking a look at where the service comes into the house.
so she has set up a, QR code ready to go. So if we get reimbursed for that, we can do a mass mailing with the QR code, and the homeowners themselves can scan it and send us back pictures.
Of what, the water service and the meter coming into the house?
Yeah, we just need to see the water service.
Right.
Everything in
Right.
front of the meter.
Well, I like that idea.
None of the doing test pits or house inspection, anything like that's included in this proposal, is that correct?
I don't recall. Do you have an extra copy of it?
No, I'm not seeing anything,
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
I mean, even if you get to the point where you do a test pit, if it does expose lead, I mean, it's foolish not to replace it.
Right, if you go down, they were,
Yeah.
I think they were trying to talk more about not doing that, cause they didn't, you'd be going down the street doing little holes all
Yeah.
over the place, so you'd be destroying your roads.
Right.
I mean, the cities are basically where the lead lines exist, and they've never had the money to do it. And so they're coming under force.
Yeah, so this doesn't include any field work. Largely because based on, we're not expecting to find a lot, right? So, yeah, because different communities have, we're working with other communities where we know there are hundreds of services, they just don't know where it starts and stops in terms of lead. Whereas, this proposal is aimed to do the requirement of the provision, for the rule. And then because Wayne has already done the QR code, I think we would recommend moving forward with that, getting that data, and then those things combined will cover you for what you're required to do under the new lead and copper rule. Then it's gonna kind of be like, wait and see what DEP wants next. And if by the end of this, we can say we have no lead services, then you're done. If at the end of this, you have 40 homes that you can't
No access.
There-
you can't say, I don't know, they didn't reply. It is possible the next step from DEP will require you to do something about those 40 houses or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you hate terminating, but the easiest way is to send them a letter and a shut-off notice. And then, because it's in the rules that they have to permit us in if we request entrance.
But
So if we don't know, if I'm looking at this right, if we have ones that we don't know what they are, we're gonna have to send them annual notices to those houses telling them that we don't know if they have lead?
Yep.
But we're not gonna have, technically, we're not gonna have to replace them according to DEP.
right.
But we're gonna be sending them we're gonna end up having to dig up anyway. Because if we start telling people you might have a lead service, and see you next year,
Yeah.
we're gonna have people in an uproar, wanting to know why we're not doing something about it. So, I don't know that we gain a heck of a lot by not being able to figure out what it is just gonna mean we're gonna have to dig up and look for them eventually.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people aren't gonna put up with it. If we didn't have to send them something annual, just continue reminding them, hey,
Yeah.
we'll have to end up coming up with a program to do it.
And it also depends, I don't know, I guess in West Bridgewater, do they own it from the curb into the house? They probably own their own service here, correct?
They own their own service, yes.
Yeah,
curb
so
stop, yeah.
your liability kind of ends at the curb stop. So if we're able to show that, based on your records, everything in the street is, lead free, then it's up to you. We're working with some communities who are doing lead replacement projects, and they are including, private side replacement, but, that's a financial decision that, the community has to make based on the priorities. And again, we're working in communities where lead is a significant problem, and we're not suspecting that to be the case in West Bridgewater.
I have the only other question, you say you have 220 hours budgeted for developing the database, and did Molly know the amount of work that's already been done when she came up with the estimate?
Yeah, because that includes, I guess, us developing an inventory that meets DEP requirements.
So that assumes what we have that Deb already put together.
Yeah, because we got, as soon as they made it available, the spreadsheet, we grabbed it. We were already ahead.
which is the DEP
Well, can you
spreadsheet.
send that to us then? Because then
I say,
I
because
can
that's
check.
something that seems like that might be a high amount of time if a lot of that work's already been done.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so if you want to forward what you have, we can cross-reference it and make sure we're not overestimating.
That's something that you could kind of get, let's say, in the next week or so,
Yeah.
and then maybe come back with an updated proposal
Sure.
if that number comes down, just before we go through.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable plan of approach.
How long before they go into someone's house if there's questionable copper lines that was soldered with 50/50 solder back prior to 83? DEP, is that something is that the next step?
I don't know. I think, yeah, I'm not sure. We're not really sure where they're going with it. I think their top priority now is, we have a lot of urban communities that have a lot of lead, and they're doing, millions of dollars of lead replacement a year.
Yeah.
So I think right now, they just want to make sure communities are aware, if they have a lead problem. And then we would guess the next round of regulations is gonna be like, okay, now you know what the problem is. You have until such and such date.
Fix it.
Yeah, or probably the next step is an implementation plan. That's usually how these things go, right? Now you know the scope of the problem. We wanna see your implementation plan. And they'll give you the first crack at saying, we'll take a look, you have 100 of them, we're gonna commit to a 5-year plan where anything that's, public, we're gonna have replaced within 5 years, anything private's the responsibility of the homeowner, or, more
There is a
aggressive.
thing, you have to do a certain percentage. If you have lead, then you have to do a certain percentage a year and it escalates. And even if it's on the resident side, the town's gonna end up eating it because they want it gone.
There are a lot of communities who are opting to do private side replacement as well.
Well,
Or-
that's something we can figure out.
Yeah.
We don't get to decide that right away.
Yeah.
We have plenty.
We don't know the scope of the problem yet.
Yeah.
So it'd be premature. Do you want this back?
No,
All right, yeah, so we'll be getting a new one of these. Yeah, so for the next meeting, we should have a new one of these, and we'll have a contract for the design of the long term.
Correct.
Coming out from you. Okay.
And then sometime between now and then, we'll expect comments back on the tank report as well.
Yep. I might give you a call directly on a couple of the things that,
Sure.
just to make sure I'm understanding what's in it, right?
Yeah, let me know, because I'd be happy to
Yeah.
bring a modeler in on call too, who is working hands on the model depending on the specificity of your questions. Up to you.
Okay. All right, do we have anything else for James?
no.
Sure. I appreciate your time as always.
No, thanks for coming in.
Anytime. Yeah, and just let me know.
We'll try to get you, try to get you out of here too, so you're not sitting.
No, we're happy to do it. The next meeting, we'll just discuss, if there's more discussion that we had on those things I'm sending, I'm happy to come back to the next meeting, to talk about the contract and the updated proposal. So just let me know one way or the other.
And our next meeting actually isn't in 2 weeks, it's in
Because that's a
3.
holiday weekend, isn't it?
Well, it's the,
June 5th,
what is it,
Monday, June 5th.
June 5th, yeah, because of the, first and third Mondays, so.
Oh, right, that makes sense. So
Next meeting is
So
Monday, June
hopefully if
5th.
we can get that agreement, have that agreement ready to sign, so you guys can get going on the.
that we can get this surveyor signed up on June 6th.
Yeah, have everything ready, just, everything's signed, just put the date on at the end.
That's already done. We already have proposals from them all. We did that as part of our design fees to make sure that we had our sub costs locked in. So, we have our agreements with them ready to sign when we're authorized to do so.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, well, thank you. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving back to the regular orders of business, we got, John, you finished signing everything,
I am,
right?
yep.
So you approve the minutes, sign the warrant, sign the abatements, rules and regulations, under that, one thing we need to do for bookkeeping is the reorganization.
Mhm.
We need a clerk, a chairman, a clerk, and a member.
I'll make a motion to appoint Art as the chairman.
A second? I make a
Second.
nomination to make
Well,
Dylan the
we gotta do them one at a time,
clerk. Do we, or can we?
probably, or can we do them both?
You should probably do them individually.
Do them separately, okay, motion made and seconded to make me chairman, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And make the motion for Dylan to be the clerk. Make the motion.
Second. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Give you a chance.
No.
And that leaves you as the member.
I like it.
I don't think we have to appoint you as that.
No, it comes with the lack of positions.
All right, now, rules and regulations, part two, the update for the application for the, this is what we were discussing, this was when Dylan wasn't here, right? About, instead of us doing the water service connections,
Right.
setting it up to have this to be contracted out.
Yes.
Well, I know we talked about this before when we were talking about the one that we agreed to contract out.
Right, because that South Main, yeah, they're moving through their thing, so I get a little nervous. But yeah, that's when I did the cost and we realized that we're losing money every time we do a service.
And we have, it ties people up.
And it ties us all up.
So for all this, they make an application to us for a service. They have to pay our fees and we still watch. We send somebody out to make sure it's done right.
Yep.
Either way, and this is only new ones complete from main to house.
Right.
If somebody needed something replaced,
If they do a
That's
water
separate.
service, then that's on them, because they own it from the
Okay.
box in. I mean, if we have an emergency repair, obviously we do it.
Yeah.
Right.
no, that's above and beyond.
Do we have any services coming up between now and the one that we gave approval to contract?
I don't know of any off the top of my head, because the new subdivisions, they've been doing their own taps. So they just come out of the blue where suddenly a lot becomes a Form A and it happens. I just know the one on South Main is coming up, because I can see him working his way through the planning board and stuff.
Right. Me personally, I'd like to see that bill after that one's all done before we made any decisions, just so we add actual numbers of what.
That won't be pricey because it's going across the state highway, but it's not gonna be easy because they have to apply to do it under my permit, which I don't like because we don't get any bond money, so hopefully whatever they do in the road holds, or I'm back there filling in holes and stuff.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just would like to
Yeah,
see that one through, and then we have an idea of what kind of issues we have along the way. The form,
yeah,
do we need to put a spot for the contractor to sign off on this form? Do they say at the bottom?
we could do that, that's why, I asked for comments, I'm like,
Yeah. I
I
just-
copied everybody out, because that's where it gets risky, the contractor going in. Can't have somebody who's in a hurry, because when you're finding the main, you've gotta find it, not with the machine, with your shovel.
Right.
Would it be out of line to ask for the contractor to supply a bond, which would cover any additional work that might go on in the future for whatever, like for instance,
Well, that's
whatever your license or that you have with the state doesn't cover it, or? is that
Right,
something-
well, the other thing is like, thinking if I have to provide a stainless steel wraparound, they can get pricey, they can be almost upwards of $2,000. It depends upon where they're working and what they're doing.
Okay, so,
Now, for septic work, the contractors have to be licensed with the town. Do we have anything, right?
yeah,
Do we have anything like that, or can?
I have
as far
seen
as-
towns where they license contractors, but I've never seen any contractors actually have any distribution, none of them have distribution licenses, they just lay water mains.
So
I don't
I'm thinking
understand
in
that.
terms of us having some kind of control over who, if there's a contractor that we really don't want tapping into our main.
Right.
Do we have any way of having any control over it?
Could the town license them? I mean, I know, well, the licensure would be from the state for a distribution license, but the state, I mean, the town authorizes the licensure for septic systems in comparison with that.
We could do a day license, I'll look around to see if I can find somebody.
But how would you disqualify somebody? From lack of experience or or problems on the previous jobs?
I would guess problems on previous jobs, because people come in and we don't see, usually I see the same people, but every now and then you'll see different companies come in.
And you don't wanna
never seen.
disqualify somebody just because they're new, and we're gonna be watching it, but.
Well, not experience.
Right. Either they'd have to provide instances of previous jobs so I can call and see how it went.
But something like South Main Street, would it need to be somewhat certified with the state in terms of cutting open that particular road as opposed to one of our town roads? It's a different certification.
That's a bigger, I know when it happened before for the business that burnt down the end, that was Dyer Construction that did that one.
Is it something you could request that a minimum of whatever standard that the state allows to cut into the road? Whatever that,
Well, when they do South Main, they get a trench opening permit to do that.
Well, they do, but they have to go through my permit, so I don't see it, they apply under my permit, so I don't see what they're doing. I just know it gets applied for under my permit. And I think it was actually the business owner that did the applying, it wasn't Dyer himself.
I'd like to learn a little more about just how that's working between, again, you said if it's under your permit and something has to get
Yeah,
repaired, now
I'm
it's
comfortable
under you,
Right.
not under the contractor.
Yeah.
So there should be some way we can get some kind of, because I know you did put, if something happens, the contractor has to do the dig to
Right.
repair, but that's, hopefully they go along with that, it's not like that's
Right.
something we have them on the hook anyway, unless we have
Right.
something extra we require until that,
Yeah, usually when the gas company strikes us, we have them dig it, because they're there, I don't have a dig safe, so there's
Yeah.
nothing I'd have to sit in there for 3 hours before I could begin doing anything. And usually they wanna get moving right away, they don't wanna sit around and wait.
I think while you're saying that the contractor would be liable for any damages and you're asking the contractor to do the digging, in an event, you should probably have them sign off on it. You should probably just swap them to sign.
Alright.
and then the way to add in also for if the road work doesn't take, probably not without us, that's generally gonna be longer term,
Yeah, so,
time wise.
so when he applies for his road opening permit, the town's gonna hit him for the infrared. In a state road, that the town has nothing in it, that the state
Yeah.
dictates what they want, but then after the year, it falls back on me.
Who watches them doing the backfilling?
Nobody really, the state doesn't come out and check.
do they rely on a representative from the water department to be their eyes, or is it something that?
Well, because it's under my permit.
So
So I'm almost thinking that we have somebody go out, they watch the tap go in, they make sure they vet it. Maybe we should plan on watching it all the way up to the top and make sure they're putting it in, compacting it.
Yeah,
Not just dumping stuff in and puddling it or something like that.
Right.
Whether state road or town road.
yeah,
Because part of it, when I first got on the board, we were talking a lot about the digging, the trench, the paving, what happened with the holes and all that.
right,
And that was a royal pain on your end,
Yes.
as I remember right. We don't wanna do this and cost, if we're doing this, we wanna not have you have that problem either.
right.
So I think if we can come up with a little more, and maybe if we wanna then look at the fee for how much time the person's gonna spend, if they spend a little more time there, it's worth it to make sure
Yeah.
that it's done right and we're not gonna have to go back.
One other thing though, Wayne, it says no flare solder fittings are allowed anywhere before meter. I think you want to add press copper under that as well.
Yep, that's like the new one up. Nobody solders anymore. They either
Yeah.
glue it or they press fit.
Okay.
Okay. So you're gonna add the contractor signature,
Yep, I'll add a contractor name, say business name, address.
yeah, once that very last thing to lower cost of repair, I just cross it out, contractor will bid for repairs,
Alright,
period.
Yep.
They don't, if they break something, they're not running away and.
Yep.
Has nothing to do
The
with the
contractor is
cost.
responsible for repairs.
Yeah.
yeah.
Period.
Anything else on this, Dawn?
No, like I said, I'd be in favor of it. I know that you only have so many people, and especially when the plants get up and running, you're gonna have less time to do things like this. I just wanna see that if it's not pressing and something we need to move along right now, because we have nothing on the books coming up
Yeah.
before we get that bill.
Yeah.
I'd just like to see that first before.
Yeah,
Like you said, that's gonna be a big bill over that.
yeah, that one's,
But when they're doing that then too, make sure to watch it all the way up.
Yeah.
Do whatever we can to protect it from
yeah.
becoming a problem down the road. Anything else you wanna say about that?
No, that's,
Since we're talking and not asking. Anything else under rules and regulations?
not at this time. It'll come to me later on when I'm sleeping.
Okay, and 477 West Center Street is on the agenda under new business.
So that was the one where I, he had indicated, I don't think he's gonna put a 1-inch meter in, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So next honeydew?
Yeah, but we had talked, did you tell him we voted for minimum 2-inch?
I haven't told him anything yet because I haven't met with him yet.
Okay.
But I know he's working his way through and I know it falls to the plumbing code, so,
Just refer to the plumbing inspector.
yep. Well, eventually you're gonna get in there.
I've been in there for the underground, but I just
All right.
started for the water service. It's only a matter of
Yeah.
time.
Right,
And then at least that way you can appeal my decision if he has an issue with it.
yeah.
So.
I think that's why he wants to do the fire flow test one more time before he gets around to that, because he's pressure tested, he's chlorinated and pressure tested and bacteria tested his mains now.
You know, he passed everything, or?
Yeah, because I haven't heard anything back for another test, so. Yeah, he didn't pass the first pressure test, he had some fittings that were loose.
Oh, boy.
Happens.
But there's a lot of nuts and bolts. My laptop decided to die, but I was gonna show you Matfield Woods, how it all went together. And another point I will be able to. I think it's just gonna, no, it's freaking out.
Unhappy.
Oh, wait a minute, it's possible here. I have not seen the screen light up yet. It keeps getting hung up. It'll do an update, and it might take an hour for that update to finish. And it hangs the thing up. Oh, left the screen.
Yeah, it's probably got an update that hasn't completed yet, you just have
Yeah.
to leave the thing on, and eventually it'll,
But the fan locks in high mode, and it sounds like it's getting ready to take off.
I actually had something going on like that with my mother's computer. All it was it never finished updating, and until it finished updating,
You want to move forward?
yeah, you couldn't get it to do anything. So. All right, well, nothing else on West Center Street, back to old business, we got down through past the Walnut Street tank. Oak Hill Way composting facility.
So he's on the agenda for the planning board Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday night,
Yeah, 7 p.m. I have to have some-
And I was going to make a request if either Dylan or John is able to attend that meeting.
I'm sorry, what night was that?
That's Wednesday night, 7:30, I think, Oak Hill Way.
I gotta-
I've already got 2 other meetings that night.
I've got Board of Health, and then I've got a continuing ed class that I need to take the Wednesday night.
I should be able to go there. I'm gonna be,
Would you be able, just so we hear what's going on directly, and if there's anything comes up, you could
yeah, I think
mention our concerns to the board?
I'm gonna be at the assessors meeting anyways. At 6:30, so as long as that gets over, I'll be over there.
All right. Yeah, because would've, and then I looked at the date, there's just no way that I can do that, so. And we heard anything new about it at all, or just,
No, just that last plan that he had submitted, and that was it.
Then he moved to the other side of the border, so he's in Brockton now as opposed to West Bridgewater.
Yeah, I haven't been back out there because technically you have to trespass to get in there to see. Of course, there's not, I think I've looked and I haven't seen any signs that say you can't trespass.
oh, computer looks like it's working.
I don't think it was gonna.
No. Like I said, we'll see what we come up, what we get. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be over there anyways. Is there anything you guys want me to say other than we're generally not in favor at all?
Well, I think just, I'm sure they're gonna be saying something that they moved everything into Brockton, so it's out of our jurisdiction, out of our control. That's,
So we'll see what it
just
is.
just listen what they say.
Okay.
Because there is, supposedly they've done stormwater ponds in there.
Okay,
You know, so not, but now you're saying they're not putting anything?
that's what I heard from the last Board of Health meeting that we had.
Okay.
And stuff.
Because that wasn't what I heard from someone else.
Oh.
That just, they were changing things around, but that still, they were still gonna be using,
Using us, West Bridgewater.
well, using stuff in our zone too.
Even though our zone 2 stops at the border,
Doesn't stop the border. Zone 2s don't stop, it's
but they can't,
municipal lines.
okay, the zone 2, but they can still, they can keep things in our zone 2 even though it's in Brockton?
We still can give them grief over what they
Under
put
the
in.
assumption that, that's true, the zone 2 stuff, but once the border is the border, it's their control jurisdiction of the, which they'd be the authority for Brockton having jurisdiction over their own zone, that we couldn't dictate to what conditions affect us.
Well, we have a portion of East Bridgewater is zone 2, down in the corner of West Bridgewater.
Okay,
West Bridgewater can't put in something over 400 gallons a day.
I just remember when they were talking about a trash energy plant over there, then they were gonna have to have, or a generator over there, they're gonna have to have fuel oil. And the talk was that the fuel oil would be in our zone 2 at the time, but that we had no control over because it was in Brockton. They needed fuel oil as a backup source of energy.
You can still put requirements on because where it is in the zone 2.
Okay.
It's not as easy as if it's in your, property that we own,
Yeah,
but it's still doable.
that looks nice.
So that was the beginning where we cut in we cut in ties so that we could, the valve, so it's the valve heading out to the vault.
Yep.
It's the, looks like the same picture. There's the vault arriving in 2 pieces. Flying through the air with the greatest of ease. That's it's the meter going in. That's the inlet side all connected. That's the meter inside all connected.
Nice.
And that's the outlet, all connected.
You have enough room to work in there as far as if you had to take this
Yeah,
out.
well, hopefully it never comes out because you can't, that's why we had to get it in before the thing went together. They're not made to be disassembled, and even,
Right.
the guy we have test the meter says, don't disassemble the thing.
So when it comes to the point of eventually if he's complaining about, if we do have a failed meter test,
Yep. That'll be, it'll be a long time. So the,
we'll be pulling the top off the wall.
you can replace our side. So there's two spots there for the meters. The fire flow meter is the one dead in line with the pipe.
Yeah.
The actual meter out to the
It's
side,
on the bypass.
that's the residential, that's the low flow meter. So that's replaceable, it's flanged in. So that can be replaced on a regular basis.
And you've got enough room getting down in there to work.
Yeah, it doesn't look it.
But I'm saying, 'cause it looks real tight. That's
How
Yeah.
wide is that one? Is that 4 feet wide?
It's 5.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, it's 5 by 8, I believe, but it came in big. It could be 5 by 9. I forget it. It came in bigger. The drawings they supplied were not correct.
So we got a bigger fault than we would expect.
Yes. Yep. That's why it sticks up further too. It was taller also.
So how deep is that below grade?
It's down. It's almost 5 feet in. So
Yeah, it sounds about right. I saw the hole
yeah.
before the vault had gone.
Yeah, as we started to try to do it, that's when all the rains came, and once it rained, we couldn't do it. It was beyond us.
Looks good. Good job.
So then when you said, I think you had said before, it's passed, it's been tested.
So I pulled the first bacteria this morning. It takes 24 hours. I'll pull the second one tomorrow, and then if I don't hear anything back, then it's good to go.
Don't forget to open those 2 valves.
Yeah.
So that
And when we installed the valves to it, we installed block valves outside of it, so we can shut down the old one.
Be nice to have that actually.
I've been here almost 18 years now, and for 18 years that was supposed to be replaced. The meter testing guy kept saying, he kept writing on all the forms that it needs to be replaced, it's not a fire flow.
What size is the main meter?
So it's a 6-inch. It's
the
2-inch.
main, so that's a 2-inch meter for the park,
Yeah,
for the residential use.
yeah.
So how does that work? So that meter in the middle is so you're actually getting only water going through that 2-inch line?
Yeah, when the flow increases to a certain point,
Yeah.
then the springs break open and it flows through.
And then when the flow decreases, does it automatically fall back?
Yep, it does. So your total flow is actually the 2 meters added together.
Okay. I got it.
But a 2-inch meter take.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll keep your fingers crossed on the bacteria. And hopefully we'll be good.
Let's see if I can, one more thing. Where is it? All right, go back here. See if it actually fires it up. Okay, keep going. It's like watching paint dry.
Do we need to upgrade the RAM in your laptop?
Mm.
Yeah, the blue circle of death.
Yeah. The little open's just. All I'm gonna show you is the daily flow rate. We jumped to 900. We went from 600 to 900 gallons a minute in a day, and we had 1,000,000 gallons last month.
With the hot days.
Yeah, well, we're in a drought again, so the minute the rain stopped, everybody turned on the system. Plus, it got warm.
Yeah.
Dylan brought back the warm weather.
Not from Sweden.
What, it wasn't?
No, it's not warm.
It's a little chilly over there. Well, you didn't go really in the summertime.
No, it was a light jacket.
Yeah. It's getting there.
All right, while we're waiting for that to come up, anything new from UMass on the solar?
No, they, I know they were speaking with the well guy about that, the ceramic coating.
Yep.
And he kind of told them that's not gonna happen, that the fins, you can't do it. So I don't know who they've been talking to or working with.
They talking about adding ceramic coating on
Yeah, so
existing?
you coat the, yeah. You would
Oh, I
coat-
thought you were talking about like just when you replace the bowls to get.
Well, when you replace them, you have them
Specific.
ceramic coated, yeah. But Peter from Mod was telling him it's not gonna happen. You could probably ceramic coat the pipes, but and I can't even imagine what that costs. If somebody else isn't paying for it, we're not gonna be doing it. And then we're supposed to meet with the candidate
Yeah,
tomorrow.
job posting tomorrow at 2:30, I think.
Yeah.
At Manley Street,
Yes,
and he just replied to that email today.
oh, I didn't see it.
Linda had sent him another reminder email,
Alright,
and I just saw that he said he'd be there.
First interview?
yeah.
Application for Plymouth County ARPA grant, we kind of covered that
Yeah,
earlier when we were talking with
I'm
James.
working on all fronts here.
Yep. Okay, rates and service fees,
No, we're still working on that. That's,
it's moving.
yeah,
It stopped again.
it'll get there. It's,
Alright, so we've been talking about the service tie-ins as part of the rules and regulations. As far as what we wanna do there, we hold off on vote until after we get a final on the form.
yep,
I mean, you don't have much of anything coming up right now, we don't
Right.
need to do that tonight, right?
no, there's nothing, no. Is it gonna open it? Or did it just fire up?
It looked like it was just coming up.
Yeah, it could be doing it in the background.
So you've pulled this up before, though it hasn't been like this.
No, usually I have it running beforehand, but I'm gonna have to give Ed a call and tell him. So we've had a couple of spikes. Yeah, so you can see we're already spiking. I don't know why people, like, you'll just drive by and people's lawn is dead and suddenly they'll throw a sprinkler out there in the middle of the day and let it run for hours. Like, it's not coming back. But yeah, I can,
How much is the line in the middle, like, where, is that,
so the 750?
that's 750, okay?
Yeah.
And then that's 1,000,000 up above.
Yeah. Yeah, once we get above that, we're beyond what I can do.
1,000,000 is redlining it.
Yeah, well, you can see, if you look on the left column, you'll see the daily flow
Oh,
rates.
yeah. April 27th, 8 over 1,000,000.
Yeah. And I did look, I think that was like a Saturday or a Sunday or something, so probably everybody was blowing out their systems and getting ready.
Yeah, because it went back down.
Mine hasn't stopped growing on its own naturally.
I'll say, that's a sad, I don't know why,
Yeah, and like, in the note, it's like, everything I read, pretty much everybody's overwatering. You want the roots to grow and dig deep, so that they're self-sustaining. When you overwater it, you surface root, so you don't have the full turf. But, you know, I can't tell you because I'm not an expert in it, and I don't care if my lawn doesn't grow. The bunnies don't care that they're out there.
no, the 8-pound woodchuck that I had the
Oh,
other day in the backyard.
Yeah,
He didn't care that I haven't been watering the lawn.
no.
So what, in the past, where are you comfortable at, 750, or are you just,
I'm comfortable at 750. It's when we get above that, that's when at some point, so if it turned out that I had to turn on Station 4 and Station 2 together, it would be okay if all the dirt went to those people that have their sprinklers running, but it doesn't go that way. I know that it goes down East Street, and then it comes up East Center Street, and then it shoots out South Main. And then after that, it kind of feathers out, but it doesn't get to the people that are doing it.
No, 'cause you get the complaints from all along.
Right, I know where my complaints come from, so I know that our water doesn't, if we're producing dirty water here out of the stations, it doesn't happen, but it doesn't go following up Mayolas towards the tanks. It goes out and around the 12-inch. The water flow wants to follow the 12-inch.
Where it says runtime hours, is that how long?
It's not, it's because you have decreasing, so mainly as the filter builds up before it backwashes, it's a decreasing flow rate. So, and most of them are decreasing even though they're not supposed to, they're supposed to pick up. But yeah, so runtime hours, that's how much we run in a day. So like a few times when you get up to 20 hours, you're not giving the well recharge time. You know, you want the aquifer to come back in. You know, we're not 200 feet in the ground. The town's literally floating on our aquifer. The other thing that I've noticed is, and I could have just seen something, but I've seen numbers begin appearing in my nitrite and nitrates, which one is a limit of 10 and the other is a limit of 1. And that's the very thing that was in the well behind you, the artesian well, and that's why, you know, they're waiting over time before they tested it again. And I call us a Title V town because we don't have town sewer, so everything that we do goes through a Title V system back into our aquifer. And so we're beginning to have more houses that are fertilizing, not like in the old days. So I could have Deborah start looking at the numbers and start tracing back, because we're required by law to keep X amount of years of data. I have that and then some, so that I can go way back, because I like to see when things go wrong.
You said we're seeing some numbers, what kind of numbers?
So they're low numbers, but I don't think I've ever seen them before. Usually it was non-detects.
So we're starting to notice something.
Right.
But we're not, it's not like we're pushing the numbers.
No, we're not at any point, but at some point that those are good, like nitrite, nitrates. Those are well shutdowns.
oh. That's not good.
No.
So what do you do? Is there,
Well, you'd have to treat for it and it's
do
still
you-
shut down until you're treating for
what
it.
is it, the cause from fertilization that happens throughout the town?
Yeah, those are fertilizers.
So you'd have to limit
Right.
use of fertilizer?
Well, fertilizer use would be the thing, but I want to go back. I just have to have somebody else do it. I just don't have time.
No, because we might need to look into something like a bylaw that in a
Right.
certain area to not allow the use of.
Well, I'm trying to be proactive and look ahead.
That definitely, and if you have the information, and we're kicking off some of the lead and copper stuff to Tater and Howard, that might
Right.
release a little time for Deb to
Yeah.
do the research into that. We should be the one,
Right.
it would seem to make sense, because then we
Yeah,
can
'cause
come
she can
up
do a lot.
We'll see it is where the tests are and map it out.
And she can link it, like the GIS has the dashboard, so I'm also gonna have her do like Manley Street, we'll get some photos in there. So that people see, you know, they voted to spend money, so that they can see what's happening as it goes along. You know, they don't see from year to year, they don't see me until, that's why, you know, I wrote down what I wanted to say, so I knew exactly what I said, and I stuck to the script until question and answer.
No, I actually had a couple people tell me they were impressed by the information and that, you know, what was, you know, you had the information there. You
Right.
were just kind of fishing for it.
Yeah,
It was a good presentation.
I agree.
But since we're worried about how much water we can put, water ban,
Water ban.
so I see they disappeared, or Dylan, we wouldn't see Dylan tonight.
They
So they went out to the mass mailing, so they'll,
probably in the mail by Wednesday.
yeah, I mean, it's posted up, but it's, you know, I don't know what to tell people, you know, I go home and I can see the guy down the street out there with his hose, it's the middle of the day, what are you doing?
you know, we gotta mention it, we gotta come down, you know, tell people to stop. I know if you don't wanna go to somebody's house because it's a, you know, personal confrontation kind of thing, like you said, send the guys the address and send them a notice.
Right.
You were seen at this time, you
Yeah,
know, as the guys are driving around, if they see sprinklers on that aren't supposed to be.
yeah, I usually wait until they get so in about 7 days or less, they'll get the letter in the mail, and then
Are we in
there's
the
no
water ban?
excuse. What?
Are we in the water ban?
Yes. Well, it's not a ban, it's a restriction.
You'll get it in the mail, it's online too, I put it online,
Okay.
town website.
But we're always in a restriction, everybody,
Yeah.
their water permit from May 1 till September 30. There's always water restrictions or water bans.
And I watched the meeting, you guys are doing alternating days.
That's what we're gonna try to, because if I can slow down the roll and keep from hitting million-gallon days, that helps out the system, because when you go to 1,000,000 gallons, you're running for a long time. The well does not have recharge.
And hopefully people won't just crank up the pressure and turn the sprinklers on twice as hard on
Yeah,
opposite days. But, and also you have it for overnight watering
right,
as well, to try to make it more.
yeah,
And one thing, I don't know how much power we have to do it, but it was mentioned to me that the town center, the park in the middle of downtown there had sprinklers running at 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
I
I know
did
this-
alert Chris
Yeah,
that
I
he needs
mean,
to readjust his timer.
even if we don't have like specific authority to tell them they have to.
Oh, the memorial?
The memorial,
Yeah.
and there's other places in town that, you know, that they have the fields and stuff. If we're telling people that you need to do this overnight, we can't have municipal stuff going on during the day that people are driving around on the weekend, like the town's thumbing their nose at them.
Right.
I
Right,
think we gotta really try to impress over there that, you know, please give us a hand here and,
yeah,
you know, we'll try to see what we can do.
So I have a sprinkler system, I have a smart system that it triangulates between your 3 closest weather stations. So it won't rain, it won't water in the rain.
Yep.
It knows how much rain you've got, so it'll adjust the time per zone
yeah,
and stuff like that. And you can set it to odd and even days, you can set it to, you know, for if there is a ban, you can set it to all those things. I think a lot of people need to get on board with the new technology.
a lot of them don't have that, like the rain sensors, well, when they install them, they put them up against the house. Well, if the rain is coming from this way,
Yeah.
it doesn't hit the rain sensor. Most systems have them built in, but, you know, if the rain doesn't get to it, it can't work. If it's under the overhang of the house.
Even the older ones, you should be able to set to alternate days, though, right?
Yeah, no, you can
Pretty
set it
much.
like my parents' house was built back in the 90s, and you can set alternate days, you know, you just program it in.
Right.
It's like I said, even that, if the spike is the problem, and most of the spike is coming from that type of
Right,
use, odd even should help a lot.
Right. yeah, that should cut in half 50% of it, and that would spread it out, and it makes it easier or doable.
Well, you know, it's always too, knock on wood, everything's running.
Yeah,
And what you can run together, what you can't. And
well, it's, when I lose Manley, and like we lost it the other weekend for a day or two, and then got it back up, cause he had spare parts, that's why the PLCs are getting replaced out. But I knew they were getting older, and I had begged him to, for almost a year, I've been chasing him. So when I ran out of his spare parts, that was it.
And those will be done before Manley Street gets
Yeah,
done, so we won't have to worry about, or shouldn't have to worry about an issue there.
right.
All right, I think we've gotten through everything that was on the agenda. Couple things that kind of weren't directly on it, but we didn't vote, so it doesn't matter. Anybody have anything else they would like to bring up tonight? Dylan?
Just that letter that went out before my last meeting. It went out and it said sincerely and it had all of our names on it. But I hadn't seen it before that, and just in the future, before something goes out. It was about the rate increase,
Oh,
just in the future. If
Yeah.
anything's gonna go out from me, I'd like to see it first.
yep,
John?
No, I think we covered just about everything that I wanted to hear in the meeting.
I'm sorry, but I know I saw that, so I didn't even dawn on me.
you know, if you want, you can suspend me for 2 weeks, I'll
No,
take it.
Well, I was at work and a guy I work with lives in West Bridgewater.
I-
I saw that letter you guys sent out. I said, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think that came up soon after, because usually we notify the people that it's occurred, rather than them getting their bill. Yep, that was an oversight on my part. Like I said, I'll take my suspension and
No, mandatory unpaid overtime, sorry.
you.
Do you have anything else to bring up tonight,
No,
Carrie?
Again, good job at town meeting, Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it was nice to get a couple people actually did comment on
Yeah.
it, about how the information that was given, they appreciated it, so.
Just the next meeting.
Yep, as they say, next meeting is
June 5th.
June
5th, right?
Yep.
And James should be here for that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second. It's 6:43.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.